Be careful, because that eerie guy is after your brains. But shh, listen up. He's actually groaning, Mookie. It turns out the very first zombie tale was written over 4,000 years ago in this extinct Akkadian language. The text, discovered in 1849 in the ancient city of Nineveh, remained a mystery for 23 years until a man called George Smith finally cracked the enigmatic code. He found that this clay tablet was one of the missing pieces of the Epic of Gilgamesh, probably the oldest written work of literature that we know of. It tells the story of a Sumerian king named Gilgamesh who found himself way too close to a zombie apocalypse. But before we all share the same destiny, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. In the story, Gilgamesh turns down a marriage proposal from Ishtar, the deity of love. That really ticks her off, so she asks her parents to lend her a mythical beast called Bull of Heaven to deal with Gilgamesh. At first, her parents were like, no, not happening. But they quickly changed their mind after Ishtar threatened to unleash deceased people from the underworld to feast on the living. In her terrifying vision, the departed would outnumber the living. No thanks. Anyway, these words are credited as the first mention of a zombie apocalypse in world literature. I mean, it has all the ingredients: reanimated humans that feed on the flesh of the living, and a scenario that becomes chaotic and dangerous, not because zombies are super skilled, but simply because there are tons of them. But not everyone buys into the idea that the Epic of Gilgamesh mentioned the first zombie apocalypse ever, especially when they compare the creatures from the ancient poem to what we call zombies today. And there are two significant differences between them. The first difference relates to zombie appearances. You see, the first time a reanimated human appeared on the silver screen was in 1932 with the movie White Zombie. In the story, a man is convinced to turn his ex-lover into a zombie to make her fall in love with him, as if there are no other ways, right? So imagine a zombie movie without colors or special effects makeup, just a soulless blonde woman. Yep, that's White Zombie, and it can be entirely meh. As time passed, these creatures needed a makeover to become more terrifying. So, movie producers improved the zombie's appearance with special effects until it reached a disturbing new level with World War Z. The point is that whether it's a character from White Zombie or World War Z, if you encountered one of these creatures on the street, you'd be certain you saw a zombie. After all, they share common characteristics, such as pale skin, a lack of expression, and a bizarre walk. But I bet you wouldn't be sure when checking out the zombies from the Epic of Gilgamesh. After all, they're described as bird-looking creatures, resembling eerie humans covered in feathers, which normally feed on dirt, not brains. Well, the second difference lies in how the zombie apocalypse starts. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Ishtar embraced the whole resentful necromancer vibe by threatening to bring deceased people back from the underworld, like she was waking them up from a deep sleep. This way of making a body rise from the underground was also frequently explored in classic zombie movies, where reanimated corpses suddenly started to come out of their graves. But nowadays, zombie apocalypse stories need a more believable explanation to really get us hooked. So current movies and video games tend to attribute zombification to a medicine gone bad kind of scenario. The realistic concept was taken to the max in The Last of Us, where they attributed the outbreak to a fungal pathogen called cordyceps. It started affecting humans after a nasty mutation. In this case, the plot feels incredibly real because this is indeed a real fungus that parasitizes the brains of insects like ants or spiders. But don't worry, an uncontrollable fungus-driven zombie apocalypse in real life is highly unlikely. Besides those two big differences, there's another reason why people may think that Epic of Gilgamesh doesn't talk about zombies. Well, that's because Ishtar doesn't really use the word zombie, or ghouls, or walkers. This theory points out that the love deity threat was actually about feared risen spirits, common in Mesopotamian mythology. Much like the Ekimas, the ghosts of people who weren't granted a proper burial. They were thought to be vengeful towards the living, especially when certain rules were not followed, such as abstaining from eating ox meat. So Ishtar could be implying that the deceased would outnumber the living in a spiritual form, not a physical one. So it does sound more like ghosts than zombies. This interpretation is quite interesting, but the most likely reason she didn't use the word zombie is that there wasn't this term back then. See, in English, the word was printed for the first time in a newspaper only in 1838 in a short story called The Unknown Painter, that's spelled zombie without the E at the end. While there's no clear agreement on where it really came from, some scholars claim that the word zombie most likely originated in West Africa, derived from the Congo word zambi, which means soul. Back then, the term was very much related to a corpse that was reanimated through magic or witchcraft, not resentful goddesses. The Epic of Gilgamesh is proof that zombie legends are nearly as ancient as writing itself, meaning that we've been fearing them for the same amount of time. The creepiest thing about zombies is probably the fact that they are essentially us. All zombies have been living their lives just like we do, having morning coffees and stressing over bills, before whatever it was that overcame them occurred. So we kind of relate to them in a weird way. Today, the fear of zombies is commonly known as kinemorphophobia, and to illustrate one of the possible reasons behind it, you should stare at this photo for a bit. Okay, so I bet your first quick thought was, it's a woman. Then you probably realized that something was off, as if this woman lacked humanity somehow. Finally, it hit you. It's a portrait made by AI. This is an example of the uncanny valley, a concept that suggests that many people might feel uneasy when dealing with something that is almost human but not quite. The same disturbing feeling can happen when we watch zombie movies. Though they still have human form, they are no longer connected to us. And that gives us an unsettling sensation. This idea makes sense today with a dose of great acting and special effects makeup. But that couldn't be the reason why people feared zombies in the 7th century before the Common Era. Well, a theory says those ancient tales originated from our natural fear of rotting corpses. Back in the old times, if a person passed away from a contagious illness, their corpse could still be infected and could possibly spread the contagion to those touching it. Zombies will never let us go. After all, movies and books always find a new way to make the outbreaks tap into our current fears. Nowadays, with modern medicine being so advanced, the idea of a zombie apocalypse probably doesn't seem as terrifying. I mean, we'd expect experts to find a cure pretty quickly, right? In 2017, the movie The Cured explored this concept. After a zombie plague dominated Europe, experts discovered a cure to save 75% of the infected. Ex-zombies hoped to go back to their regular lives, but reintegration was not that easy, since people couldn't forget what they did as flesh-eating creatures. This challenging situation shows us that even cured zombies can still give us the chills. But let's hope all these dilemmas will remain within the realm of fiction. Zombies, the undead creatures with a big hunger for flesh. They're usually depicted as strong but mechanical beings. They don't waste their time in chit-chat, although they might grunt a little. It turns out the concept of zombies existed long before they hit the big screen. The ancient Greeks can be considered to be the first to fear the undead. Archaeologists found skeletons pinned down by rocks. Someone might have aimed to prevent the bodies from coming back to life. Yet, the most fascinating discovery comes from Haiti, where zombie folklore has deep roots. These legends have existed for ages, starting in the 17th century. Here, zombies and voodoo are connected. Many voodoo practitioners today see zombies as myths. Still, some believe that bokors, which are voodoo practitioners, can revive people as zombies using special mixtures made from toxic ingredients. These creatures made their movie debut in 1932 with White Zombie, along with iconic monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula. The movie drew inspiration from Haitian stories and revolved around a voodoo master turning people into zombies to work in a sugarcane mill. It laid the groundwork for future zombie horror and paved the way for the subgenre to thrive. But it was George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, made in 1968, that truly established zombies as a cult favorite. Interestingly, their portrayal in this movie also reflects social and political issues. Classic zombie movies make us tense, squint, and hold our breath, while comedies leave us laughing so hard that our cheeks hurt and we can barely catch our breath. Directors tweaked the survival instinct and the genre itself to get more creative. For example, comedy zombie movies known as zomcoms have garnered a dedicated fan base. Movies like Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, and The Dead Don't Die inject humor into the genre, presenting ordinary people dealing with extraordinary situations. The contrast between the zombie scenario's absurdity and everyday life's mundane aspects adds a comedic twist. These films offer a break from reality and allow viewers to imagine how they might navigate a zombie apocalypse, often leading to hilarious and unrealistic solutions. Then there are films like Warm Bodies that added romance to the Zombieland. What else? Even Scooby-Doo went on a zombie island. Movies like 28 Days Later and Resident Evil captured collective fears and offered terrifying depictions of a dystopian world. The popularity of zombies further skyrocketed with the hit of The Walking Dead. Television played a huge role in the rapid rise of zombie popularity. While movies and video games were still gaining traction, The Walking Dead surely took the craze to new heights. So what is it about these gruesome, brain-devouring beings that we find so captivating? One of the main attractions is the violence and gore they offer. The undead provide endless opportunities for special effects that other horror genres often don't explore. Plus, there's something about these slow-moving and seemingly unintelligent monsters that make us believe we could handle them. It taps into our innate survival instincts and fantasies of escaping society's constraints. It's no wonder zombie-themed survival guides like Max Brooks' famous book, The Zombie Survival Guide, have also gained popularity. Zombies stand apart from other monsters, like vampires and werewolves. Vampires and werewolves generally represent power and romance, but there's nothing glamorous about being a zombie. They aren't scary because they're strong. They're frightening because becoming one would be the end of your consciousness. Unlike vampires and werewolves, zombies threaten our way of life. In movies like Romero's Dawn of the Dead, they symbolize the collapse of society. It's no coincidence that zombies have risen in popularity during uncertain times. In the face of global events, people find solace in exploring their fears through these stories. They provide a fictional glimpse into a world on the brink of collapse, allowing us to ponder the end while still finding comfort in the fact that it's all make-believe. The entertainment world knows it well. People absolutely love getting scared. Horror is a big hit, and zombies are more than happy to be the ones scaring us. Part of our attraction to these creatures is related to the pleasure we get from horror. It seems to go against our natural instincts. We normally tend to go towards positive experiences and avoid anything that makes us feel bad. Horror should be something we run away from, but many people not only face it head-on, but actively seek it out when it comes to content. This puzzling phenomenon is known as the horror paradox. There are 4 likely reasons why this horror paradox exists. Firstly, I know it may sound contradictory to what I've just said, but bear with me. Horror can actually make people feel good. When we watch a horror movie, it triggers our fight or flight response and gets us all revved up. Interestingly, this heightened feeling doesn't just fade away when the movie ends. It lingers on, intensifying other experiences we have afterwards. For instance, let's say you take someone on a date to see a zombie movie, followed by a lovely dinner and some dancing. Thanks to the lingering feeling from the movie, the dinner and dancing may feel even better, leading to an overall positive memory of the entire evening, including the scary movie. And those positive memories make us do it all over again, including watching more scary movies. Keep it in mind if you have a date soon. Hey, just saying. The second reason for the horror paradox is what we call genome lag. It's the idea that our ancient nervous systems haven't caught up with rapid technological advancements. Our sense of sight, in particular, played a vital role in our ancestors' survival by helping them detect potential environmental threats. Our brains have become extremely skilled at spotting movement, and they don't easily distinguish between real-life movement and what we see on screens. So when we watch a horror movie, our brains interpret those moving images as real and trigger a genuine physiological response. Some theorists suggest that experiencing terror through horror movies is a way for us to participate in a primal rite of passage, much like our ancestors did. Back then, they would undergo trials or tasks to prove their readiness for adulthood. It's fascinating to consider this theory, especially when considering the age ratings given to horror movies, TV shows, and video games. They indicate that maturity, typically based on age, is required to handle the horror experience. Another probable reason for the horror paradox is that it offers a form of symbolic catharsis. Exposing ourselves to horror can provide catharsis in two ways. Firstly, watching horror movies helps us improve our ability to cope with danger. When we watch a horror movie, we face a sense of danger that we must confront and overcome. We find ways to deal with the situation and come out unscathed, which boosts our sense of mastery in handling adversity. Horror movies have become a practice ground for facing and managing scary and dangerous scenarios. Secondly, horror allows for an appropriate outlet for our violent or aggressive impulses. Living in a supposedly civilized society, we may use horror as a means to connect with our more primal instincts in a socially acceptable manner. Lastly, the horror paradox may be related to our innate morbid curiosity. Many of us can relate to that urge to sneak a peek at a car wreck as we drive by, or our interest in seeing recently released crime scene photos. I mean, nowadays, we binge watch a true crime series and go to bed. From an evolutionary psychological perspective, humans have a peculiar fascination with negative things, like horror, because there's an advantage to examining and understanding dangers and threats. If we can comprehend and identify a threat, we're more likely to cope with it successfully and survive the ordeal. That's why the zombie phenomenon has truly taken off, captivating audiences in various mediums and embracing creative and unexpected twists. So whether you're watching a zombie romance or joining a zombie-filled game, these undead creatures have carved their place in pop culture, stumbling into our hearts and keeping us entertained. Zombies are here to stay.
What will the end of the universe be like? It might be 100 billion years away. But here's the real question. Should we start panicking already? Jan Levin, a cosmologist, appeared at a recent screening of the captivating Netflix documentary, A Trip to Infinity. She mentioned that there would be a time when the last sentient being exists and the last flicker of thought fades away. This perspective sheds a whole new light on things. Somewhere in the vast expanse of the universe, there will be a moment when the memories of legends like Einstein and Elvis will fade away. Just imagine what that last thought would be. A brilliant pearl of wisdom, a colorful expletive. The possibilities are as endless as the stars in the night sky. Now let's take a cosmic detour and explore how we got ourselves into this peculiar predicament. As we currently understand it, our universe burst into existence with a bang approximately 13.8 billion years ago. Since then, it has been expanding at an ever-increasing pace. For decades, astronomers debated whether this expansion would continue indefinitely, or if a big crunch awaited us in the distant future, where everything would collapse back together. Everything changed in 1998 when astronomers stumbled upon a discovery. The cosmic expansion was accelerating. This turbocharged expansion was fueled by a mysterious force called dark energy, woven into space-time's very fabric. The larger the universe grows, the more this enigmatic force pushes it apart. It's eerily similar to the cosmological constant, a concept introduced by Einstein to explain why the universe didn't collapse, only to be discarded later as a blunder. But guess what? The cosmological constant turned out to be a stubborn idea that refused to fade away. And now it poses a threat to both physics and the universe itself. If dark energy triumphs in the end, distant galaxies will eventually speed away from us so rapidly that we won't be able to see them anymore. With each passing moment, our understanding of the universe will diminish. Stars will extinguish and never ignite again. It will be akin to living inside an inverted black hole where matter, energy, and information are swallowed beyond the event horizon, lost forever. The star-making days of our universe are behind us. Star formation reached its peak nearly 10 billion years ago and has been gradually declining ever since. The reason for this waning of stellar light is our expanding universe. As the cosmos grows larger with each passing day, the matter within it remains constant but gets spread out over more and more volume. To create a star, matter must be compressed into relatively small volumes. As the universe ages, fewer opportunities arise for such compression. So, in the far future, we can estimate that the last star will be born approximately 1 trillion years from now. This final star is likely to be a small red dwarf, a fraction of the mass of our Sun. Red dwarf stars have extraordinarily long lives, slowly burning through hydrogen in a steady fusion reaction, but eventually, even they will exhaust their fuel. In roughly 100 trillion years, the last flicker of stellar light will fade away. This accelerated expansion will progressively limit our view of the wider universe. Although we can still observe distant galaxies because of the light they emitted long ago, their current light will never reach us. As the universe expands at an increasing rate, the boundary beyond which galaxies recede from our view moves closer and closer. One by one, galaxies will be torn away from us by the relentless cosmic expansion, accelerating so swiftly that their light will forever elude us. Anything not gravitationally bound to us will be unable to withstand this onslaught. Only the local group, consisting of the Milky Way, Andromeda, Triangulum galaxies, and several satellite dwarf galaxies, will remain in our proximity. However, this lingering existence will be far from idyllic. Over time, our 3 galaxies will merge into one mega-galaxy, completely isolated from everything else in the universe. In this solitary state, the mega-galaxy will slowly dissolve. Chance interactions will scatter individual stars, or what remains of them, into random orbits. Some will be hurled into the giant black hole at the center of the galaxy, while others will escape into the void, never to be seen again. After an unimaginable span, no complex systems will endure. All that will be left are isolated islands drifting in an infinite expanse of darkness. To make matters worse, as thinking requires energy, there will eventually come a time when the universe lacks the energy to sustain a single thought. Eventually, all that will remain are subatomic particles, dancing in the vast expanse of intergalactic space, engulfed by eternal darkness. This will occur trillions upon trillions of years after the last glimmers of light and life have vanished. And then, countless eons will stretch onward to the point where even measuring the passage of time becomes impossible. As Brian Greene described it in his book, Until the End of Time, it's a tale full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This might make us feel some sort of weight of insignificance in the face of this cosmic destiny. If this truly is the fate awaiting the universe, it's both humbling and disheartening. Our universe may be 14 billion years old, but that's just a fleeting moment compared to the unfathomable darkness that lies ahead. It means that everything remarkable in our universe occurred in a mere blink at the beginning, followed by an eternity of emptiness, its finality and futility on an unimaginable scale. But hold on a second. Before we surrender to despair, let's remember that we're still a long way from this inevitable end. New discoveries in physics could provide a glimmer of hope, an escape hatch from this fate. Perhaps dark energy is not constant. Maybe it will change its course and bring the universe back together. Michael Turner, the brilliant cosmologist who coined the term dark energy, emphasized that the cosmological constant would be the least interesting answer to the dark energy puzzle. So, who knows what surprises the future holds? But for now, We can't help but peer into the abyss and wonder. We are but brief inhabitants of this cosmic spectacle, here for the grand party when the universe brims with life and light. We may not have a say in the final act, but we can cherish the here and now, reveling in the magic of the present. As astrophysicist and philosopher John Archibald Wheeler once said, "The past and the future are mere fictions, existing only in the artifacts and imaginations of the present." From that perspective, the universe ends with each of us, granting us a unique perspective and a chance to make our mark. So let's embrace the fleeting nature of existence. Though the future may be finite, it liberates us to fully appreciate the wonders of this moment. After all, as the saying goes, nothing lasts forever, whether it's the stock market, the stars, or even our own lives. An awareness of eternity's whiff can illuminate the brilliance of a lifetime, even if it's just mine or yours. There is more than one theory about how the universe is going to be gone forever. In the world of quantum field theory, for example, we come across something called a vacuum decay. Picture it as a vacuum that's kind of stable, but not totally rock-solid stable. This false vacuum can hang around for quite a while, chilling in its semi-stable state. Could eventually say, "Nah, I'm done," and transform into a more stable vacuum. We call this wild event false vacuum decay. It's like a cosmic game of Jenga, where the unstable blocks finally collapse, and the universe finds its true balance. So, cosmic adventurers, let's treasure the Milky Way and all its splendor for as long as it lasts. And who knows, maybe in the vastness of this ever-expanding universe, there's still a surprise or two waiting for us. The story isn't over yet, and the cosmos is filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. What do you think the end of the universe looks like for us humans? Are we even going to be around to witness it?